wanted to offer you some perspective on soul fracturing. So in the process of healing, in the style of work that I offer my clients and I like to experience for myself, when I go back to heal what I call continual lives, and many of you have probably heard me say this concept before, though continual lives is what many people call past lives. I like to refer to them as continual lives because for me, time is an illusory tool that we can manipulate and mold to our advantage, or we can be run by time depending on the level of consciousness of the user of time. And so if you watched the video that I titled The Comb Concept, the guides gave an understanding of how to perceive time in a more quantum perspective. So our old 3D model of time, which gives us more of a horizontal outlook to time, where in school we might have done a book report and on the far left end of our horizontal timeline was the beginning, the past, and on the far right end was the future or the present. And this is a very 3D linear perspective that most of us were probably raised with around perceiving time. It's very limited. The guides offered a perspective that perceives time more as a vertical, if you will. They use the analogy of taking a comb for your hair, and the spine of that comb is on a vertical axis, and as if your astral body or your soul is traveling up and down this spine, if you will, like an elevator. And when we do continual life healings, depending on which lifetime, dimension, or reality we would like to project ourselves into, we might stop off at that floor or that tooth of the comb and check it out, see what's going on, tap into that frequency, shift it, alter it, learn from it, whatnot, and then we withdraw our consciousness out of it and continue on that journey. Now, in a way, this is also kind of a linear concept because it's not necessarily quantum, but it gives us a better kind of kindergarten perspective of time in a more usable fashion, in my experience. So when I talk about continual lives, that's what I'm referring to. It could also be what we would deem as a future life, or a life in an alternate reality, or a different universe. Though no matter where that aspect of our soul resides, we may have soul fractures in each and every dimension, reality, or life that we've experienced. Most of us probably do. Now, soul fracturing happens quite often for souls when they go through any form of trauma that's significant enough that the soul is feeling that it is no longer safe to stay inhabited in the physical vessel or in that now moment. And what often happens, the way I like to explain it, is as if the aspects of the soul that's incarnated into that physical vessel in that lifetime has dropped the glass ball of their soul, if you will. And that ball has kind of shattered on the ground. Maybe many pieces shattered off in all directions. Maybe just a couple shards fractured off. Though regardless of how much trauma was experienced and how much soul fracturing actually happened in that life, it is our job, if we want to become fully sovereign again and aware of our truth, to seek out these little pieces and put them back together, if you will. So a lot of us have experienced soul fracturing in different ways. Maybe we view it as a physiological PTSD type ailment. Maybe we have memories that trigger the trauma and we're stuck in a loop of repeating patterns or getting upset or traumatized by whatever that past experience is. Some of us know what these traumas might be from our conscious life, our conscious self in this life, though many soul fractures, most because we've had so many life experiences and realities and dimensional existences, is out of our conscious awareness. And if we want to ultimately ascend up into the 5th and 6th dimension, it is our responsibility, our job, to seek out these soul fractures and piece them back together, if you will, through healing process. And there are so many different healing processes that one can seek out and resonate with, though ultimately the goal is to draw the frequency of self back in offer what needs to be healed up to the oversoul so that this energy can be transmuted, healed, and can eventually integrate back into the holistic soul. So soul fracturing is a very important concept, in my opinion, to understand, because when it comes to healing our soul, it is imperative that we call back these aspects that have fractured. A lot of soul fractures not only happen through some kind of traumatic experience through a situation or with another person, but they can also happen in regard to psychic attack. The soul fractures might have experiences where they've been cursed, or there's an implant that is stopping, an energetic implant, which we've talked about before, that is stopping the ability for us to call that soul fracture back into healing, into holistic form. There are many reasons why a soul fracture would have trouble coming back to the soul, or why it would be difficult for us to find these fractures. Often the beings or the energies that many of us have been aware of that are working to keep us from moving into a holistic sense of balance and peace in our being work quite diligently, and they have many effective methods to keep certain aspects away from journeying back to the holistic oversoul. A lot of soul aspects through lifetimes have been ostracized. They've been condemned away. They've been blocked. Maybe they're invisible. Maybe they're trapped. Anything and everything is a possibility when it comes to a reason why our soul wouldn't be holistic in any now moment. Though regardless of what happens, it's our responsibility to seek them out. Now, how do we do this? Well, if you are human, it is a guarantee that you have soul fractures. In my experience, that's just the way it is. It's a part of the soul experience. It's a part of our learning process. And ultimately, it's been a very important way for us to know thyself. Not just as a human, but as a soul. Our soul is often quite grand. If you're somebody seeking videos like this or learning to help yourself through an awareness process, it's most likely that you have an older soul. You have some significant experience. You're attracted to these types of modalities because a part of you, your soul, your spirit, is probably telling you that it's time for you to help yourself and bring back the aspects. A lot of healing happens in our dream time. Most healing we're not conscious of anyhow. So even just utilizing your free will to ask and request of your higher self, your oversoul, and your guides to help you heal and draw back and heal the soul fractures, there's a lot going on that you might not be aware of. A lot of soul fracturing that you may be consciously aware of would be things like karmic patterns. If you're having physical diseases that's difficult for your body to let go of, if there's memories of traumas and triggers, or you have blocks you can't get past certain things, this can be an example of a part of you that's having a soul fracture. And remember, everything is holistic. So when I say soul fracture, that is just one way to view perspective of healing. So if I have some kind of PTSD trauma, I am experiencing that physiologically, absolutely, because when I get triggered, I might have adrenal failure. I might get overloaded with fight or flight energy, and I might move into a fear or a rejection or some kind of energy like that. That's a physiological example. When I talk about soul fracturing, if I have PTSD, I absolutely also have soul fracturing that's going to complement or mirror that PTSD element. And then there's also elements to that. I probably have energetic and psychological pain happening at the same time. So there's many facets to these crystals, if you will, of piecing this all back together. I like to look at it metaphysically because that's my experience. That's what I'm attracted to. You can heal soul fractures by utilizing other modalities that aren't focused metaphysically. So if you go get treatment for your PTSD and maybe they're prescribing you vitamins and minerals and calm and peace and meditative states to heal what's going on physiologically, that can also create a safe enough environment that attracts your soul fracture back to your oversoul, and this healing can happen on a subconscious level. Though ultimately, I find it very efficient to consciously seek out these soul fractures and help guide them back towards the light and call in the beings to assist. Now, this is the very technical type of work that I do, and there are a lot of very important techniques to understand in this regard, because a lot of soul fracturing has happened in a way that was intentional. Not necessarily intentional from our soul in that now moment, but intentional from other beings. Now, this is a little bit of a trick concept when we talk about intentionality, because as a soul, ultimately, we are responsible for all experiences that we have. So if we're speaking of a particular lifetime where there's been a significant soul fracture that has happened, and now it's billowing out through other lifetimes, and it is affecting you in this now moment in a way that you're conscious of. Hence the reason you're moving through to find that soul fracture and heal that. The experience, the lesson that is imperative for your soul in regard to the reason why your soul would manifest that experience in the first place. At some point in that soul's contract, if you will, they wrote this agreement to have this experience because there's a much higher, probably a multitude of higher lessons that your soul needed or needs in regard to that experience. In that regard, which is usually a pre-written contract before that lifetime if it was an extremely imperative lesson, or it could have been written in dream time during that lifetime, though it might be subconscious or unconscious to the being that is incarnated in that life. On some level, the soul is aware of that choice. But as we know, there's veils. We're not completely conscious or aware of everything that our soul or oversoul does, chooses, learns. So in some way, yes, your soul is conscious of this agreement. But for the most part, when it comes to incarnating into the life experience, most lifetimes, not all of them, not necessarily if you're incarnated in a life that's not on this earth plane, but most lifetimes are veiled in the illusion of forgetfulness. Hence the reason we're on this path, to remember thyself. So when I say it's a trick concept, this is what I mean. Because in some form, yes, your soul is aware of the contract, the agreement, that experience. Though in that lifetime, in that now moment where that being is veiled with the illusion of forgetfulness, they may not be consciously aware of that agreement. They might not have wanted to go through that traumatic experience, though there could be other beings, entities, or energies that are consciously working to impose that trauma or create that soul fracture or keep that fractured soul aspect away from the oversoul in order to slow the process of awareness or ascension, because maybe they are beings that are service to self, and they're not on the path of service to others. Maybe they are beings that are minions or are enslaved to other aspects or other beings that have a malevolent agenda. Or maybe it's because an implant or something has been installed into you energetically or psychologically, psychically, that keeps you from being your highest, most integrated truth. Whatever is happening, it is our responsibility to become the detective and find out what these mysteries are. Help remove these blocks, clear out these curses, take away the implants, the plugs, the tags, what have you, and assist that soul fracture back into holistic alignment with the oversoul. Now, when we do this healing work, we don't necessarily call that soul fracture back in to our human in this now moment. That soul fracture has gone through some very traumatic experiences, and they may need to be wrapped up and cared for via the higher guides and the oversoul, and help them disassemble what's happened, understand it, process it, heal from it, and integrate and transmute that energy back into our oversoul. And then that energetics trickles down and assists us in our awareness process. So soul fracture work is very, very important. We have many soul fractures. I have been doing this work for about 14 years. And I have gone through thousands and thousands and thousands of my own personal soul fractures. And I guarantee that I am not done. We have lots of them. It happens quite often. Some can be very traumatic and significant. Some can be minor. So regardless, we need all pieces cohesively moved back into our oversoul. So I hope this assists you today in some form. If you would like a private channeling or healing, please contact me, Chloe@worldpeaceprojects.global, and I'll speak to you guys again soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.